Ladies and gentlemen, as a good religious man, sometimes I really struggle. There is a principle that we call lashon hara, which is basically the idea that you shouldn't basically slander others or really be negative or hurtful about them. But sometimes I really struggle, specifically in relation to the South African communists. So why are we actually talking about the communists? Well, the reason we're talking about the communists is because for those of you who watch our channel, you will notice that they have decided that they are going to contest the next elections. They've fallen out with the ANC and they decided that it's now time that the next local government elections, their name is going to be in the ballot box. So unfortunately, they do appear to be in the news more than normal. So let's actually start off with some of the things that have actually occurred. Well, let's actually start off with the latest speech that the head of the SACP has said, where he's basically, he's doing communist type things. So for those of you who haven't noticed, there's a dispute in Mozambique. The dispute in Mozambique is over who won the actual elections, because for those of you who don't know, Mozambique is a communist hellhole where you can't own any property, and 99.99% of the population live in abject poverty. Well, the individuals in Mozambique recently had an election to try basically get out the problem causes. And in typical fashion, those guys, won. We all know how, and many individuals have suggested that the election was stolen. Well, the SACP has come out and basically said to the incumbents, the guys that stole the elections, the communists, that they fully support them, and there's no ways that they lost the election. It would have only been through imperial forces. Yep, imperial forces. They then went on a tirade against the United States because the United States has blockades against Cuba. And for those of you who don't know what a Cuban election looks like, they don't have one. Pretty much because the communists rule that place, and they don't allow anybody else to be on the ballot box because nobody else is as good as the Communist Party. There's an actual doctrine of it in Cuba. It is that the Communist Party is the only party you need because they're that great, even though no one else thinks that. They then went on to basically say that Swaziland was, a place where they don't have any democracy, basically because they don't allow communists, and they are very upset with that. They then went on to offer support to Sudan, who also don't have elections. They're also governed by a one-party state. They actually have elections, but you can't actually win that election because it's got a one-party dominance, like the ANC. In fact, the ANC actually has less of a dominance than they do in Sudan. And there are quite often forms of regime change or political overlords coming in to tell you who's going to do what. And it's amazing that this tirade all ended off with a huge big support for Venezuela, also a socialist hellhole. You see, when you look at who the SACP says we should all be super proud of, you're not proud of any of them. All of them are run by tyrannical regimes, and they're really not what I'd say are places that I want to live. But again, it shows you exactly who the SACP is molding itself after. As they say, you know who a person is by the company they keep. Now, I did a video just before Christmas where I talked about how the SACP was going to contest the local elections and what their rationality for this was. And since then, Ramaphosa has been rather mum. Many other individuals have been engaged in conversations with even Panyezo Lesufi going to an event and singing anti-GNU songs, being caught on camera. Paul Mashatile also been caught on camera singing anti-GNU songs, which has led many to speculate, do the ANC actually want the GNU or not? Is it just the South African communists that don't want it? Like, what's actually going on here? And many argued that possibly, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. These were ANC members at SACP rallies, so they were kind of encouraged just to get on with it because, they have no backbone or integrity of their own. So they just follow the masses. Well, Ramaphosa has now come out and basically said that he thinks that the SACP going on its own would weaken the National Democratic Revolution. And it was very interesting to see him use that phrase. The reason I say that is because anybody who reads Anthea Jeffrey's books will know that the SACP, the ANC, and COSATU all align to the NDR. According to Anthea Jeffrey, there's actually a reason that they do it, and it's basically socialism. What I would say is, that's kind of true, but also kind of not. And the problem is that the SACP and the ANC actually have differing views on what the NDR actually is. So let's actually go through it. So the ANC actually believes that the NDR is to establish a non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, and united society. They talk about this quite a bit. Listen to any speech they give in Parliament, any speech they give at all, and they always reference the same ideas. These were principles outlined in the Freedom Charter of 1955. So what is the NDR according to the ANC? Well, according to them, it's a means to address the historical injustices in the country, to change the socio-economical disparities from colonialism and apartheid. But you see, the way they want to use it is to basically transform, through a democratic process, the current capitalistic framework in order to allow forms of transformation on a broad spectrum for societal benefit. That's pretty much what it is. You keep capitalism, you transform it, and then you achieve a correction of the imbalance. The SACP's view on the NDR, however, is more nuanced in that what they believe is that it is a precursor to socialism. They view the NDR as basically being a tool in which you create favorable conditions for socialist transformation, and that by doing that, you would basically get this working class or working-led class that would basically rise up against the capitalists, and in doing so would achieve a socialistic utopia. And we all know that these utopias that they were drawing reference to earlier, we all know how many people want to go there. Yeah, no one, because everybody leaves those places in huge numbers and seeks asylum in other countries. It's pretty much what happens to Cubans, Venezuelans, Mozambicans. Yeah, they all go and find homes in other countries. Because this type of idea or ideology that the SACP are pushing is very infrequently does it create a form of utopia that people actually want to live in. So you see, when Ramaphosa says that breaking up the alliance would actually weaken the NDR, one has to ask the pertinent question. Whose NDR are we talking about? Are we specifically talking about the non-sexist, non-racialist, blah, blah, blah ANC view of the NDR? Or are we talking about the NDR of the socialist regime? And you see, this is the part that is never expressly said by Ramaphosa himself. Whilst they promote the NDR is this big boogeyman that nobody can really quite define. And the reason for that is because individuals have different ideas of what they think it actually means. So one thing I would say to the ANC is, NDR of what? Are you, the ANC, suddenly ditching the middle of the road kind of umbrella organization and embracing wholeheartedly socialism, knowing full well that many in your organization don't support socialism because they're hardcore capitalists? Or are you talking about the NDR that the SACP is not wishing to pursue, and thus the, democratic, non-sexist, whatever society? Now, you see, according to the SACP, the reason that they want to split with the ANC is because apparently the reconfiguration of the alliance has not occurred, and the SACP don't actually have a seat at the table in government. What they say is that the DA, they hate the DA because they're a capitalist party, but according to them, the DA has more of a say in government than they do. And the answer to that should be, yes, that's obvious they do. You see, the reason they do is because they actually got some votes of their own. Nobody voted for the SACP. And the SACP seems to acknowledge, to a degree, that actually come the next elections, where they're going to have their name in the ballot box, they're going to get hiding like a massive bloody nose, because no one's going to vote for them. And you see, already they're also starting to contemplate whether or not they need to fight the elections with another party in tow, MK, EFF, I don't know, someone like that, because nobody actually votes for these clowns. But in typical fashion, what they always want is they want to assert their opinion on the mass population, even though no one asked them for it. It's like having an opinion and making sure everybody hears it, even though nobody asked you the question. This, unfortunately, is the normal MO of every socialist or communist regime around the world. And I found it interesting to watch them sit there and basically congratulate all these socialist shitholes, and then basically sit there and say, we want to make South Africa shithole. Because according to them, they even support the Free Palestinian peoples, who's basically had their land expropriated by Israel, and they're now having a apartheid regime with Israel. Now, you see, I find this funny, and I'm not here to say which side I approve of and which side I'm voting for, but one has to remember something. Once upon a time, Palestine didn't actually belong to the Palestinians, it belonged to the British. The British were given the land by the Turks at the end of World War I. At the end of World War II, the British gave it to the Israelis, the Jews, because they had nowhere to go. Now, the reason for that is because when all the Jews were freed in Europe, they were asking countries, so where do we go? Well, the country said, not us. Don't come to us. We don't want you. So they said, here, have this piece of land. It's yours, isn't it? You call it Israel, go there. And you see, by and large, what tended to happen is all the Jews went there because that was their land. And yes, the Jews allow Arabs to live there, but they allow Arabs to live there in a democratic, non-sexist, non-racist society. Like the NDR type society. But you see, many of the Palestinian land don't want that. So one has asked the question, who's the actual oppressor here? Because you see, if they really wanted to, they could immigrate to Israel, as long as they, don't kill everybody and just want to live in a peaceful society and contribute. But you see, you can't say that for Palestine. You can't be a Jew and immigrate to Palestine, can you? Because they won't have you. So you see, one has asked the question, where's the real apartheid? But you see, this is logic, and SACP don't like logic. What they like is they like to go around to all the repressed people around the world, repressed governments that we would find undesirable, and basically call them friends. Because this is the new paradigm of the left. You find a repressed person, you sympathize with them, and then you all be repressed together and use your repressed status to somehow come on top. And this is exactly what's happening in Palestine. Do they actually believe in the Palestinians? I don't believe they do. And many of you in the comment section may say that you disagree with me on that, and you're welcome to. But at the end of the day, all they really want to do is come out on top, even though nobody voted for them. Let us not forget that. And in case, that's my views at the end of the day are still reading SACP rubbish and just thinking yes, these people are retarded beyond all imagination. Yes, I really don't like these guys. Anyway, that's my view. You can let me know what you think in the comment section below. Bye.